The wind howled through the broken windows of Blackmore Theatre, carrying a biting chill that whispered through the empty halls. Inside, the dim glow of the old stage lights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows over rows of dust-covered seats. Though abandoned, the stage still clung to a ghostly trace of its former grandeur, as if it longed for another performance. At the center of the stage, a lone actress rehearsed her lines. Her voice echoed into the vast emptiness, returning to her unnaturally, as if something unseen was whispering them back. Her soft footsteps tapped against the worn wooden floor, but with each passing moment, she felt an increasing certainty she was not alone. The lights flickered again, more erratic this time. The amber glow faded for a brief moment, plunging the theater into complete darkness, before returning now weaker, as if something was slowly draining its energy. A chill crept down her spine. She turned sharply, scanning the empty rows of seats, but nothing was there. Only silence, only shadows stretching too far along the walls. Yet the oppressive feeling of being watched gripped her chest like a vice. A gust of wind rushed through the stage, stronger this time, causing the heavy red curtains to sway too much, as if something moved behind them. Her breath hitched as she took a cautious step back, her wide eyes locked onto the fabric's slow, deliberate movement. Then, a voice emerged from the darkness. "You should have never returned." It was a whisper, low and stretched, coming from everywhere at once. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears, her hands trembling as she clutched her script. The shadows along the walls shifted, twisting unnaturally alive. One shadow rose beside the curtain tall, towering, human-like but wrong. Its shape flickered, unstable, as if struggling to remain in this world. The actress opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. Her feet felt trapped, held down by unseen hands. The lights above flickered wildly, and the shadow lunged. Darkness swallowed the theater. A piercing scream rang out. Thensilence. When the lights returned, the actress was gone. The Mystery Machine pulled up in front of Blackmore Theatre, its headlights slicing through the thickening mist. The grand structure loomed against the night sky, its cracked columns and creeping vines whispering of decay. Shattered upper windows gazed down like hollow eyes. Fred stepped out first, his sharp blue eyes fixed on the towering theater. Daphne followed, pulling her coat tighter against the chill. Velma lingered by a crumbling wall of old posters, their faded faces staring back at her. Fred crossed his arms. "So this is the place?" Velma adjusted her glasses. Blackmore Theatre, shut down years ago after Victor Graves, a famous illusionist, vanished during his final performance. Daphne ran her fingers along the peeling edges of a poster. That was a long time ago. Why reopen it now? Fred exhaled, his breath misting in the cold air. Because the new owners want to erase its bad reputation. But not everyone wants that to happen. Shaggy took a wary step back from the front doors. "That's just a fancy way of saying this place is cursed, isn't it?" Scooby whimpered beside him, ears flattened. Velma's voice remained measured. "They say anyone who tries to perform here disappears." A heavy silence fell over the group. Fred squared his shoulders, stepping forward. "Then we need to find out what's going on." He pressed against the doors. The rusted hinges groaned, the sound echoing deep into the theater as the heavy doors creaked open on their own. A cold draft rushed out from the darkness within, carrying the scent of old wood and decay. Shaggy and Scooby instinctively stepped back. That was a sign we should leave," Shaggy muttered. Fred ignored him and stepped inside. One by one, the others followed. The shadows swallowed them as they crossed the threshold. Inside, the grand lobby of Blackmore Theatre stood in eerie stillness. Dust coated every surface. The once plush red carpet leading to the main stage was now threadbare and discolored. Above them, a massive chandelier groaned faintly on its rusted chains. The theater's main stage loomed ahead, its heavy curtains drawn shut. Yet despite the still air, they moved slightly, as if something unseen stirred behind them. Daphne ran a gloved hand over the reception desk, leaving streaks in the thick layer of dust. "It still looks like a theater," she murmured. "Just dead." Velma crouched, picking up a discarded playbill. This was Graves' final performance, but he disappeared before the last act. Fred scanned the empty rows of seats, and now everyone who tries to perform here vanishes too. Shaggy and Scooby had started inching away, their eyes locked on the curtain. "I've seen enough horror movies to know where this is going," Shaggy whispered. He hesitantly reached out and tapped the fabric. It moved. Shaggy yelped, stumbling back into Scooby. Did you guys see that?" Daphne frowned. It looked like someone walking behind the curtain. Then, the lights flickered. For a brief moment, total darkness swallowed the theater. Then, a scream. Fred turned just in time to see Velma being yanked behind the curtain. He lunged forward, reaching for her. Too late. Something unseen pulled her beyond the stage. Silence returned. Daphne clamped a hand over her mouth, eyes wide. "Velma, she's gone." Fred clenched his fists. "We have to find her, now." Outside, the wind howled louder. The theater groaned, almost as if it were breathing. The shadows deepened. Then, everything went black. The silence inside Blackmore Theater was thick, almost suffocating. The gang stood frozen, staring at the heavy red curtain where Velma had vanished. It swayed slightly, as if whatever had taken her was still lingering just beyond. Fred clenched his fists. "We're getting her back." His voice was steady, but his stance betrayed urgency. Daphne took a cautious step forward, glancing at the others. "We have to move fast." Whatever that was, it didn't waste time. Shaggy, gripping Scooby tightly, swallowed hard. Maybe she just fell into a trap door, and maybe we should let the professionals handle this?" Scooby nodded quickly, ears pinned back. Fred ignored them, aiming his flashlight at the stage. The beam cut through the dust-filled air, illuminating the wooden floorboards and the towering red curtain. Slowly, he stepped forward, his footfalls creaking against the aged planks. Daphne reached out, brushing her fingers against the curtain. The fabric was unnaturally cold. A shiver ran down her spine. She pulled the curtain back. The darkness beyond swallowed the light. The backstage was vast, the catwalks and old props looming like forgotten relics. The air was damp, thick with the scent of mold and something metallic. Fred's voice was low. "Velma, are you here?" Silence. Then, a whisper, so faint it could have been the wind, but it carried through the empty theater like a breath against the skin. "Turn back." Fred swung his flashlight toward the source, but there was no one there. Daphne took a step forward. Her heels clicked against the wooden floor. Shaggy and Scooby clung to each other at the threshold, too terrified to follow. Then, the temperature dropped. A freezing gust of air rushed through the backstage, rustling old props and stirring the dust into the air. The wooden beams groaned as if the building itself was shifting. Daphne shivered. "This place feels wrong." Fred ignored the unease creeping over him. He spotted an old wooden door, slightly ajar, leading to the dressing rooms. If Velma had been dragged anywhere, it had to be through there. He pushed the door open. The hinges shrieked. Inside, the dressing room was a mess of shattered mirrors and overturned furniture. Old costumes lay scattered across the floor, their colors faded into dull grays. Daphne ran her fingers over a vanity table covered in dust. Then, something moved. In the mirror, a dark shape. Daphne spun around. Nothing. Her pulse raced. "Fred, something's in here." Fred scanned the room, just as a rustling sound came from the farthest corner. His flashlight beam landed on an old wardrobe, its doors slightly open. Slowly, he approached. The wardrobe slammed shut on its own. Shaggy yelped from the doorway. "Okay, I'm officially done with this haunted house." Fred grabbed the handle and yanked the door open. Empty, except a single red scarf. Fred's stomach dropped. Velma's scarf. Daphne exhaled sharply. She was here. Fred turned to the others, determination burning in his eyes. "She's still here." Then, a whisper. "You shouldn't have come." The wardrobe door slammed shut. The lights flickered wildly. Then, the mirror shattered. Darkness rushed toward them. The sound of shattering glass echoed as shards rained onto the dusty floor. The broken mirror reflected fractured images of the gang, their faces wide with alarm. The room plunged into an unnatural chill. The whisper still lingered in the air. Fred reacted first. Move. Daphne ducked as a piece of glass crashed near her shoulder. Her heart pounded as she grabbed Shaggy's sleeve, yanking him toward the exit. Shaggy stumbled after her. What was that? What was that? Scooby bolted, tail tucked between his legs. Fred gripped Velma's scarf, jaw tight. The wardrobe stood still, as if nothing had happened. But they knew better. Something was watching them. Fred led them back into the backstage corridors. The wooden planks groaned under their steps. The dim emergency lights flickered overhead. The deeper they went, the stronger the scent of dust. Old wooden, something metallic. Daphne pressed a hand to her temple. We're missing something. This isn't just a haunted theater. There's a pattern. Fred nodded, scanning the torn playbills lining the walls. Many bore the name Victor Graves, the missing illusionist. Whatever's happening here started long before us. Shaggy, still clutching Scooby, swallowed hard. And if we're lucky, it'll end before we disappear next. Daphne ignored him. Her eyes locked onto something, a thin outline along the wooden panels. A hidden door. She ran her fingers along the frame until she found a small indentation. There's something here. A passage. Fred pushed against it. The door resisted, then gave way with a loud creak, revealing a narrow, spiraling staircase leading downward. A damp gust of air hit them. The smell of rot. Scooby whimpered. Our really bad idea. Shaggy nodded. Fred, buddy, let's think about this. Every bad horror movie starts with a staircase leading underground. Fred didn't hesitate. And every mystery gets solved by finding out what's hidden. He stepped onto the first creaky step, his flashlight barely illuminating the descent. Daphne followed close behind. Shaggy groaned, hugging Scooby. This is it, pal. This is how we become part of the mystery. Slowly, they descended. The silence inside Blackmore Theater was heavy, thick with the weight of everything that had just happened. Dust still hung in the air, illuminated by the faint glow of the restored seal at the center of the stage. The entity was gone. The shadows had receded, but the theater itself still felt uneasy. Fred stood over the glowing markings, watching as the golden light slowly began to fade into the wooden floor. Daphne rubbed her arms, trying to shake off the lingering cold that clung to her skin. So, that's it? It's over? Velma, still catching her breath, adjusted her glasses and inspected the ruins. The once broken symbols were now intact, pulsing faintly before settling into an eerie stillness. Yes, the seal is holding. This time for good. Fred finally let out a slow breath, his shoulders relaxing for the first time. Then let's get out of here. Shaggy, who had collapsed into a seat near the front row, let out a groan. I second that motion. I have never been happier to say goodbye to a haunted nightmare theater in my entire life. Scooby, still lying flat on his stomach, lifted a paw weakly. Right there with you. The gang exchanged weary glances before turning toward the exit. The theater, once alive with menacing whispers and shifting shadows, was silent once more. As they stepped into the cold night air, the wind blew through the now empty streets, carrying away the last traces of Blackmore's curse. The sky was beginning to lighten, hints of dawn breaking over the city. The mystery machine sat parked under a street lamp, looking completely out of place in front of the theater's ornate yet crumbling entrance. Daphne exhaled deeply, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. That was intense. Fred nodded, glancing back at the massive building. More than intense, that was dangerous. Whatever was trapped here, someone broke the seal on purpose. Velma frowned. But who? And why? Shaggy lifted his hands. I vote we don't find out. Ever. Scooby gave an eager nod. No more. Daphne sighed. The real question is, what happens now? Do they still plan to reopen this place? Velma adjusted her glasses, looking at the building with deep thought. If they do, I just hope they never break that seal again. Fred's gaze remained fixed on the theater's dark windows, his gut telling him that something still wasn't right. Something about this mystery felt unfinished. Then, a single light flickered inside the auditorium. The gang turned sharply, eyes locking onto the second-story balcony. And there, just for a moment, a shadow moved. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't their imagination. It was watching them. And then, it was gone. Daphne's breath hitched. Did you see that? Velma's lips pressed into a thin line. Yes, and I don't like it. Fred exhaled through his nose, rolling his shoulders. Let's go. The gang piled into the mystery machine, none of them looking back. Fred started the engine, and the van pulled away from the curb, disappearing into the waking city. The theater stood behind them, silent once more. The seal was restored. The entity was trapped, but something remained. And deep inside Blackmore Theater, the curtain shifted. Shaggy slumped into his seat, stretching his legs out as he let out an exhausted groan. I don't know about you guys, but I am retiring from solving haunted theater mysteries forever. Scooby nodded. Retire. Daphne chuckled. You say that every time. Shaggy waved a lazy hand. Yeah, well, this time I mean it. Velma, already flipping open her laptop, frowned at the screen. Fred glanced at her through the rear-view mirror. Something wrong? Velma tapped at the keyboard, scanning a newspaper article that had just popped up. There's been some strange activity reported in an abandoned mining town up north. Fred arched a brow. A mystery? Velma smirked slightly. Looks like it. Daphne let out a dramatic sigh, leaning against the van's window. Can't we just have a normal vacation? Shaggy groaned. Why do all of our vacations turn into life or death situations? Scooby patted his stomach. Reward first? Fred chuckled. All right, food first, then another mystery. The mystery machine sped down the road, disappearing into the golden morning light. Whatever awaited them next, they'd be ready.